Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The fight started in our kitchen. Not over bills, not over chores. Just one sentence. A sharp, cutting sentence that ripped straight through whatever threadbare piece we had left. $20,000 a month is nothing these days. Amanda scoffed, arms folded across her chest, leaning against the marble countertop like she was delivering a TED Talk on disappointment. Seriously, Chris, do you even realize how far behind we are compared to everyone else? Emily's husband pulls in six figures every quarter. We're living like peasants. I dropped the spatula onto the stovetop, the clatter breaking the silence like a gunshot. Peasants. I repeated, my voice low. Are you listening to yourself right now? She shrugged with this bored little smirk, then casually sipped her overpriced smoothie. Just saying, you work so hard. For what? We're not struggling, but we're not exactly living. I stared at her, trying to keep my tone even. I make $240,000 a year. I didn't get that handed to me. I built my business from scratch. Nights, weekends, failures you never saw. That used to mean something to you. Amanda rolled her eyes. You think grinding away at that computer in the basement counts as ambition? You've been wearing the same pair of sneakers for 4 years, Chris. And you've been wearing resentment like perfume for the past 2. I shot back. That one hit. I saw the shift in her face, just for a second, before she narrowed her eyes. You really want to go there? I stepped closer, jaw tight. Yeah, I do. Because I'm sick of being humiliated in my own house. You sit there worshiping Emily's husband while I pay every bill in this place. And maybe you haven't looked in a mirror lately, Amanda, but you're not exactly who I married either. Her expression froze. Excuse me. You let yourself go. I said it quietly, not out of cruelty, just tired honesty. The woman I married had spark. Confidence. Not this. Bitter stranger who spends her day gossiping and comparing men like they're stocks. The words landed like a slap. She set her glass down hard on the counter, hands trembling just slightly. You think you're some catch now? You think saying that makes you a man? No, I said. But pretending you respect me when you don't, that makes you a liar. She laughed, cold, brittle. So what? You want a gold medal for being Mr. Modest Breadwinner? You think making money excuses you from being a bore? You don't talk, you don't notice me, and God forbid we touch anymore. I blinked, stunned. Maybe that's because every time I try, you treat me like I'm beneath you. Amanda's voice dropped, venomous. Because you are. I didn't flinch. I just turned off the stove. The scrambled eggs were already ruined anyway. Got it, I said, voice flat. Good to know how you really feel. Don't pretend you're some saint, she hissed. You haven't looked at me like I matter in years. I met her eyes, and for a second, all the bitterness between us burned away, and there was just sadness. Thick. Tired. I used to, I said softly. But I don't even recognize you anymore. We stood there in silence, the kitchen filled with the smell of burnt toast and old memories. I could hear the dishwasher humming, a reminder that life kept moving even when love stalled. Outside our kitchen window, the neighborhood looked picture perfect. Suburban bliss. But in here, inside this polished home we'd built, everything was cracking. And for the first time, I didn't feel like fixing it. Because this wasn't a bump. This was a rupture. That night, I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling, my hands folded on my chest like I was waiting to be buried in my own thoughts. The room was dark. Quiet. Too quiet. Amanda was beside me, her back turned, phone glowing against her cheek as she scrolled through something. Probably Instagram or Pinterest boards full of lives she thought we should be living. I turned my head slightly, just enough to watch the faint outline of her figure. She still had that same long, graceful neck, that same arch in her back when she stretched before turning out the lights. But something was different now. It wasn't just her body. It was the way she moved, like she didn't care if I noticed anymore. Years ago, she used to light up a room. I remember the first time I saw her. Amanda was standing in line at a bakery, laughing with the cashier about something so dumb I can't even recall it now. But I remember thinking, I need to be the one who makes her laugh like that. She used to turn heads everywhere we went. Not just because she was beautiful, but because she had this energy, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. Now, I could barely feel her beside me, even when we were inches apart. I'm still awake, I said, softly, hoping for something, any kind of bridge between us. No answer. Maybe she didn't hear me. Maybe she did and just didn't care. I wasn't sure which would hurt more. I closed my eyes, and for a few seconds, all I could see was the Amanda I married, the one with windblown hair and a summer dress on the beach, laughing as she kicked sand at me. She used to grab my hand when we crossed streets, even when it wasn't necessary. She used to lean into me when we sat on the couch, like being near me wasn't just comfortable, it was her favorite thing. When did that change? When did we stop trying? When did I? I rolled onto my side, facing the window. Outside, the porch light flickered weakly against the wind. I felt this strange ache in my chest, not just sadness, but guilt too. I hadn't complimented her in weeks, maybe months. I'd noticed the changes, sure, the extra weight, the dark circles, the constant edge in her voice, but I never asked what she needed. I just swallowed my frustration, buried it under deadlines and grocery runs and mindless small talk. Maybe I thought it would go away on its own. Maybe I hoped it would. From behind me, I heard the soft click of her phone screen going black. Then the mattress shifted slightly as she turned over, settling deeper under the blanket. No words, just the familiar sound of her breathing, steady and indifferent. And there I was, lying next to the woman I once couldn't keep my hands off, and feeling nothing but a strange, heavy silence pressing against my ribs. Was this what marriage became? Was this just what happened when people stopped choosing each other? I didn't have the answers. Only more questions, and the dull, gnawing realization that I didn't know how to want her anymore. And that maybe, just maybe, she didn't want me either. The next morning, I woke early, earlier than usual, with a strange kind of purpose humming under my skin. Maybe it was restlessness. Maybe it was desperation. I just knew something had to give. By 7 a.m., I was already back from the gym, hair still damp from the shower, a small envelope in my hand. The sky outside the kitchen window was dull and gray, and the coffee machine gurgled like it was just as tired of our life as I was. Amanda walked in wearing a robe, scrolling her phone with that half-glazed look she wore every morning lately. She didn't say anything, just headed to the cabinet, grabbed a mug, and poured coffee like it was her only lifeline. I slid the envelope across the table. She blinked. What's this? I kept my voice light. A gym membership. For both of us. Her fingers froze around the mug. Excuse me. I nodded, trying to keep it casual. We used to go together, remember? Saturday mornings. Thought maybe we could do that again. Amanda didn't open the envelope. She just stared at it like it was a dead bird I'd laid in front of her plate. You're unbelievable, she said, voice flat. I raised my eyebrows. It's just a membership. I thought. No, she snapped, pushing the envelope away with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. You thought you'd shame me before 8 a.m. That's not what this is. You're telling me I've let myself go, again, but you dressed it up as a thoughtful gift this time. Got it. I shook my head. Amanda, that's not fair. I suggested we go together. For both of us. It's not about looks. It's about feeling better. Oh, please. She slammed her mug down, coffee sloshing over the rim. Don't hide behind fake concern. You haven't touched me in months, Chris. Then you hand me this like it's some romantic gesture? What next? A coupon for Botox. That's not what this is. I stood up, pushing my chair back harder than I meant to. I'm trying here, Amanda. I'm trying to fix what we've been ignoring for too long. By fixing me, she shouted, arms wide. Because God forbid you ever look in the mirror and ask what you've stopped doing. I clenched my jaw. I work 60 hours a week to keep this house running. When do I get time to fall apart? Oh, you poor thing, she said with a bitter laugh. You think I've had it easy? You think I want to feel invisible every day? Maybe if you noticed me instead of that dumb treadmill downstairs, we wouldn't be in this mess. I stared at her, stunned. You say I don't notice you? Amanda, I see everything. I see how you sigh when I walk into a room. I see how you compare me to Emily's husband. I see how you resent me for not being what you think I should have become. The room fell quiet, heavy with something unspoken. She crossed her arms, eyes shining now. You want to go to the gym together? Fine. But don't pretend it's about us. You're embarrassed of me. No. I said quietly, the anger slipping. I'm heartbroken. You stopped choosing me. And now, I'm starting to wonder if I should stop choosing you. The silence after that wasn't peaceful. It was cracked and dangerous. The toast popped behind us, burned at the edges and curling with smoke. Neither of us moved to grab it. We just stood there, staring across the kitchen table like 2 people who used to be something, and now weren't quite sure what was left. It was Heather who pulled me out of the fog. My younger sister, married 7 years, 2 kids, a golden retriever named Beans, and somehow still finding time to check in on her big brother when he looked like hell in a text message. Lunch. My treat, she wrote that morning. No excuses. You sound like a sock full of bricks. So I drove across town to this little diner we used to go to as kids, the one with booze that stuck to your jeans and a jukebox that always played the wrong song. Heather was already there, sipping lemonade with her sunglasses propped on her head, and that mom glow that somehow made her look both exhausted and invincible. You look like you lost a fight with your own life, she said, scooting a menu toward me. I did, I muttered, sliding into the booth. We didn't talk right away. She waited. That's the thing about Heather, she never pushed. Just left enough space for you to fill when you were ready. Finally, I sighed. We had another fight. Yesterday, over a gym membership. Her eyebrows arched. You bought her one? I bought us both one, I clarified. Figured we'd go together. Make it a thing. She saw it as a personal attack. Heather hummed, stirring her straw. And was it? I looked up. Seriously? She held my gaze. Come on. We're adults. Was it at least a little about how she's changed? I leaned back in the booth, exhaling hard. It wasn't just that. I miss who we used to be. I thought maybe going together, being active again, maybe it'd reconnect something. Heather nodded slowly, then looked out the window for a second, watching traffic. You know what the worst part of marriage is? What? When you realize it's not a fairy tale. That it's just 2 people waking up every day and deciding to try. And some mornings, one of you just doesn't. I looked at her. She looked back. You're not crazy, Chris. You're just the only one still trying. I swallowed hard. That sentence hit somewhere deep. Heather leaned forward, her voice lower now. Amanda? She stopped showing up. Emotionally, physically, mentally. And no, I don't think a gym membership is going to fix that. But I know what it's like to be the only one fighting for something while the other person stares right through you. I nodded slowly. I thought maybe I was being harsh. Unfair. Like, maybe I've checked out too. She gave a soft smile. You checked out because you were locked out. I blinked. She shut the door, and you're standing on the other side with a fistful of keys that don't fit anymore. I've been there. Before Ben and I hit counseling, I thought we were done too. But the difference is, both of us wanted to find the lock again. Her voice gentled. Amanda's not looking, is she? I stared at the table. She's too busy pointing at what I'm not. Heather reached across the booth, rested her hand on mine, then stopped shrinking to fit her story. I looked up, eyebrows drawn. You're enough, Chris. Even if she doesn't see it right now, that doesn't mean you have to stop seeing yourself. For the first time in what felt like weeks, I felt my chest expand fully. Like her words cracked something open, not pain, but air. Something that felt a little like hope. Heather sat back, smiling gently. Relationships are work, but you shouldn't be doing all the labor alone. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Thanks, I said quietly. She winked. Now eat your burger. You look like you're 3 hours from crying at a gas station. I laughed, a real one. A small one, but honest. And that lunch, that short hour in a sticky booth with a wise sister and cold fries, became the first moment I realized I wasn't the broken one. Maybe I was just tired of pretending it didn't hurt. I came home to darkness. No lights, no music, no clatter of dishes or hum of the TV. Just the soft mechanical whir of the fridge and the faint, taunting scent of Thai takeout hanging in the air. Pad CEW. Amanda's favorite. Mine? Not even close. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door and stood still for a moment, staring into the quiet kitchen like maybe dinner would materialize if I blinked enough times. But there was nothing. No plates, no food on the stove, not even a note. Just 2 crumpled napkins tossed on the counter and a nearly empty plastic container with a fork sticking out of it. She was already upstairs. I could hear the muffled sound of a show playing behind the closed bedroom door. Something with canned laughter, which somehow made the silence downstairs feel even heavier. I walked over to the fridge and opened it, hoping for leftovers. A single bottle of almond milk, 1 sad yogurt, and 3 bottles of rose. I closed it with a sigh and leaned against the counter. I hadn't expected a feast, but Amanda had always cooked, even when we were fighting. There was something reliable about that. Her clattering pans, the smell of garlic and onions, the little muttered curses when she dropped a spoon. It used to mean we were still functioning, that we could still make something together. But this was deliberate. A quiet slap in the face. A message wrapped in rice noodles and tossed in the trash. I grabbed a glass, filled it with tap water, and drank it slowly, letting the coolness wash away the heat rising in my chest. Then I climbed the stairs. She didn't even look up when I opened the door. Just lay there in bed, blanket pulled up to her waist, watching some rerun on her tablet with her earbuds in. She laughed at something on screen. Not loud, but enough to make me clench my jaw. "Hey," I said. "Nothing." "Amanda." She pulled out one earbud without turning. "Yeah? You didn't make anything?" She glanced at me like I'd asked if the sky was still blue. I wasn't hungry. I stood there in the doorway. "You ate." I said I wasn't hungry. "Didn't know your schedule." "I work late every Tuesday." "That's not new." She shrugged, eyes flicking back to her screen. "You're capable of feeding yourself." I let that sit. Let it soak in. Then I took a breath. "Right." She didn't reply. I turned, walked to the bathroom, brushed my teeth in silence, then changed into a worn t-shirt and gym shorts. I slid into bed without another word, the mattress dipping beneath my weight. She kept her eyes on her screen the entire time, like I was just part of the furniture now. We used to talk at night, decompress, laugh. Even in bad weeks, we at least asked how the other was doing. Now, I felt like a tenant renting space in her world, one she'd grown tired of sharing. I lay flat on my back, staring at the ceiling again, the same way I had the night before. Only this time, I didn't feel sad. I felt cold, controlled. Resentment crept in like slow fog, not because of the food, not even because I was hungry, but because Amanda didn't even care that I was. That I came home after a 12-hour day to find no meal, no message, no effort. Just a half-finished carton of noodles and a laugh track behind her earbuds. That kind of silence wasn't peaceful. It was a warning. And as I lay there, jaw clenched, listening to her giggle softly at whatever sitcom she was using to tune me out, I made a quiet decision. I wasn't going to ask for her effort anymore. If she wasn't going to show up, emotionally, practically, in the tiniest of ways, then I wasn't going to keep holding out hope that she would. I turned toward the wall. My stomach growled quietly in the dark, but I didn't move. Let her have her takeout. I was already starving in more ways than one. Saturday dinners at my parents' house used to be sacred, warm, noisy, full of teasing and second helpings. I used to look forward to them. But tonight, the air was brittle, like everyone felt a storm building but kept pretending it was just a light breeze. My dad was at the grill, apron on, flipping burgers like it was still 2005. My mom buzzed between the kitchen and the back patio, checking on the potato salad for the 5th time. My sister Heather and her husband were already seated at the outdoor table, kids running circles around their chairs. Amanda sat across from me, legs crossed, wine glass in hand, that same performative smile on her lips. "So," she said suddenly, voice raised just enough to cut through the buzz of conversation. "Guess what Chris got me last week?" I glanced up, warning bells already sounding in my head. She didn't wait for anyone to answer. "A gym membership," she said with a theatrical gasp. "So romantic, right?" The table quieted. Even my nephew stopped mid-sprint. Amanda turned to Heather. "You ever get a gym membership for Mother's Day? Or do you and Ben go the flowers and kindness route?" Heather blinked, fork halfway to her mouth. Amanda kept going, eyes locked on mine now. "He said we should go together. You know, as a couple. Real bonding stuff. Because what says, 'I love you,' like hinting your wife isn't up to standard anymore." My mom let out a nervous chuckle and reached for the breadbasket. "I'm sure he didn't mean, I meant exactly what I said." I cut in calmly, setting down my glass. My voice was even, but it carried. Amanda's eyebrow lifted. I looked around the table. We haven't been doing well. I thought maybe spending time together, doing something good for ourselves, might help us reconnect. Amanda scoffed. "That's not how it landed." "I know," I said, nodding. "Because you'd already decided I'm the enemy. That anything I offer has to be some kind of jab." A hush fell. My dad stepped off the grill, slowly removing his mitt like he was worried it might turn into a boxing match. I leaned forward, not angry, just clear. "I didn't buy it to shame you. I bought it because I missed you. But you'd rather humiliate me in front of my family than ask why I'm trying at all." Amanda opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My voice softened. "We've been roommates for months. You think that doesn't hurt? You think I don't feel the distance, too?" She looked away. For a full 10 seconds, the only sound was the wind rustling through the trees. My niece broke the tension with a tiny sneeze, and everyone jumped a little. Then, without a word, Amanda stood, walked toward the house, and disappeared inside. Heather gave me a quiet nod across the table. I picked up my fork, took a bite of coleslaw, and said, "So, Dad, you still using charcoal, or did you finally convert to gas?" It was a small shift, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one shrinking at that table. Before we go on, tap subscribe to catch the next drops. The next afternoon, Heather texted me one sentence. "Meet me at Chapter House at 2. You need real coffee and someone who isn't delusional." Chapter House was this tucked-away little bookstore cafe near the university, the kind of place with crooked bookshelves, mismatched chairs, and exactly the kind of quiet I needed. When I walked in, Heather was already at a corner table, 2 cappuccinos in front of her, a novel she clearly had no intention of reading open in her lap. She didn't say hi right away, just slid one of the mugs toward me and gave me a look. "You good?" she asked. I exhaled. "Define good." Heather tilted her head. "Still hungry for coleslaw justice?" A weak smile tugged at my lips. "Something like that." She took a sip and leaned back. "Chris, she crossed a line last night. That wasn't just a snide comment. That was a public performance. You gave her a lifeline, and she spun it into a leash." I stirred my coffee slowly. She wanted people to see me as petty, controlling, some husband who only sees the surface. Heather shook her head. "That's not what I saw. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't insult her. You spoke with dignity. And you told the truth." I looked down at the foam in my mug. "Doesn't feel like it made a difference." "It made a difference to me," she said quietly. "And I bet it did to Mom and Dad too, even if they didn't say it." We sat in silence for a minute. The soft buzz of conversation filled the background. Students at study tables, a barista grinding espresso, pages turning. Heather broke the quiet. "You thinking about next steps?" I hesitated. I've been trying to hold the line, keep things from falling apart. But after yesterday, I don't know, something shifted. "Because you finally saw how much you're carrying," she said. I nodded. "It's not even about the gym or dinner or the sarcasm. It's that she doesn't care how her words land. It's like she wants to break things just to prove she's still in control." Heather leaned in. "You've been bleeding quietly for a long time, Chris. Maybe it's time to stop handing her the knife." I blinked. That line hit harder than I expected. She stirred her drink, then said softly, "I'm not saying walk away tomorrow. But I am saying this. If she's not willing to meet you halfway, you're allowed to stop dragging the weight of the entire marriage by yourself." I let out a long breath. "I've been thinking about giving her a choice," I admitted. "Either we both show up, or we stop pretending." Heather nodded. "An ultimatum's not a threat. It's a boundary. And boundaries protect both people, not just the one drawing them." I looked around the cozy bookstore at all the quiet stories on the shelves, and for a moment, I wondered what story we were writing now. Maybe not a happy one, but maybe an honest one. Saturday night, we were at a party hosted by one of Amanda's co-workers, a sleek affair with hanging lights, catered finger food, and the kind of jazz playlist meant to make people feel more interesting than they really were. I didn't want to go, but Amanda insisted. Said we needed face time with her circle. Translation: I needed to play the role of supportive husband, while she basked in curated compliments and carefully staged selfies. We hadn't spoken much since the dinner at my parents' place. Just surface-level logistics. "I'll be back late. Did you feed the dog?" Nothing that hinted at progress or change. Still, I held on. For the sake of appearances. For the thread of hope Heather had helped me hold. The house was crowded, warm with bodies and the smell of expensive cologne. Amanda looked beautiful, in that distant, practiced way. Black dress, hair up, red lipstick that used to be just for me. Now it felt like armor. I watched her from across the room, half a drink in my hand, while she laughed a little too loudly at something one of the guys from her office said. There were 2 of them, both sharp suits and shiny watches, the kind of guys who loved to smile while staring at her chest. One of them touched her arm lightly as he said something. She didn't pull away. I walked over slowly, steady, polite smile in place. "Everything good over here?" I asked, casual but clear. Amanda barely glanced at me. "Of course." One of the guys nodded. "We were just telling Amanda how she's got the best taste in wine. She's been giving us a full education." "Yeah," I said evenly. "She's full of surprises." There was a beat of silence. Then Amanda tilted her head, still facing them. "You know, she said, voice sugar-sweet. I think the secret to surviving marriage is staying interesting. Or at least, surrounding yourself with people who are. The words weren't loud, but they cut clean. One of the men coughed awkwardly. The other suddenly found his drink very interesting. I turned to her slowly. Amanda, I said, tone measured. Do you want to dance? She looked at me then, fully, finally, and smiled. No, she said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. I don't want to dance with you. I felt the room shift. A few heads turned. The music suddenly felt too slow, too exposed. I nodded once, jaw tight. Not even pretending anymore, huh? She stepped closer, voice just for me now, but her eyes still cold. Why should I pretend? You don't want me, Chris. You want the version of me that stopped existing years ago. I want a wife who doesn't humiliate me in public, I said, still calm. That too much to ask? She shrugged. I'm not humiliating you. You're doing that all on your own. Someone turned the music down, or maybe the song ended. Either way, the silence that followed was sharp. Hanging. Watching. I took a breath and stepped back. Got it, I said. Loud and clear. And just like that, the room went still. No more smiles. No more flirting. Just me, standing in the middle of a crowd, staring at a woman I once couldn't wait to come home to. Now, I didn't even know who she was anymore. For a few seconds after Amanda's words landed, no one moved. The party hung in this odd, suspended silence, like someone had accidentally unplugged the night. I stood there, drink still in hand, the sting of her rejection settling somewhere in my chest. But weirdly, it didn't hurt the way it used to. There was no panic, no hollow ache, just clarity. And then, something I didn't expect. A voice, soft and amused. If you're free, I turned. Two women were standing nearby, each with a wine glass and a smirk. One was blonde, tall, maybe early 30s with a confident tilt to her head. The other had dark curls and kind eyes, her voice lighter, but teasing. It was her who'd spoken. Dance with us, she finished. The blonde raised an eyebrow. Unless you're too wounded from that epic rejection. I blinked, surprised, and then I laughed. A real, low laugh that rolled up from somewhere buried. Amanda still stood a few feet behind me, arms crossed now, lips tight. She didn't speak. I turned back to the two women and gave a half bow, mock formal. Ladies, I said, setting my drink down on the side table. It would be an honor. They giggled like this was the most fun they'd had all night, and before I could overthink it, I stepped out with them onto the edge of the makeshift dance floor. The music picked up again, something upbeat and ironic, almost like the room itself wanted to shift the story. I didn't know the song, didn't need to. We danced. Nothing fancy, just loose, light movement. I let go. For once. My shoulders relaxed, my chest opened, and I actually smiled, genuinely smiled, as the blonde twirled away and the curly-haired one pulled me back in for a spin. Around us, the energy started to thaw. Conversations resumed, laughter crept back in. People didn't know whether to be shocked or entertained. I didn't care. I saw Amanda in the corner of my eye, watching from the same spot. Frozen, still holding her wine glass, but not sipping it. She didn't move. Not an inch. And I didn't stop. I danced. For the first time in what felt like years, I felt weightless. No pressure. No begging. No calculating my words. No tightrope walk through a minefield of her moods. Just movement. Release. Joy, even if it was laced with irony. The two women laughed as we half-joked, half-danced through the last part of the song. I caught my reflection in the sliding glass door behind them. Me, in a blue button-down, sleeves rolled up, smiling like someone who hadn't lost himself. Maybe I hadn't. Maybe I'd just forgotten who I was when I wasn't constantly trying to manage someone else's disappointment. The song ended with a fading beat. The women gave me a little cheer, playful bows, and wandered back toward the snack table. I stood there for a second, hands on my hips, catching my breath, still grinning. Then I looked at Amanda. She was still watching. Only now her smile, the smug, practiced one, was gone. And in its place was something else entirely. Confusion, maybe even fear. Because in that moment, she saw what I'd just realized. I didn't need her permission to feel alive. And I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. I walked over to the bar, poured myself a soda, and leaned casually against the counter. Someone passed me and clapped me on the shoulder. Smooth recovery, he joked. I just smiled. Nah, that wasn't recovery. That was release. and it felt damn good. The silence in the car was louder than the music at the party. Amanda didn't say a word the whole ride home. Not when I opened the passenger door for her. Not when I adjusted the AC because she was always cold at night. She just stared out the window, arms folded tight, lips pressed in a line. But the second we walked through the front door, it broke. She slammed her purse onto the console table and whirled around. Was that your plan? I didn't answer. I took off my watch and set it gently on the entryway shelf. To embarrass me, she snapped. To make me look like some cold-hearted joke in front of my coworkers? I looked at her calmly. I asked you to dance. You humiliated me, she spat, stepping closer. You flirted. You put on a show like some teenage boy desperate for attention. I raised an eyebrow. That's rich coming from someone who spent half the night letting two men talk to her like she was single. That was different. No, I said, voice firm, it wasn't. Her eyes flashed. You think that little stunt made you look strong? It made you look pathetic, Chris. I tilted my head. Funny. I felt free. Her breath caught for a split second. Just enough for me to see the flicker of panic under her fury. She recovered quickly, stepping in again. This isn't how marriage works. You don't get to perform in front of strangers like you're some victim. I met her eyes, steady and without a trace of emotion. Amanda, I'm done. She blinked. Done with what? Pretending, I said. Pretending we're still in something worth salvaging. Pretending that you haven't made your choice already. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. You stopped showing up. You turned everything into a battle. Every effort I made was met with mockery or silence. So yeah, I'm filing. She stared at me, stunned. You're divorcing me? I'm divorcing the version of you that's been in this house for the last year, I said. The version that looks at me like I'm nothing. Her voice dropped, trembling now. You don't mean that. I do, I said. You made your choice long ago. I'm just giving it a name. The words settled between us like broken glass. Amanda's shoulders sagged. You can't just walk away. We've been together too long. Exactly, I said. Too long. Her eyes filled instantly. Tears pooled, her lips parting like she couldn't believe the floor had shifted under her. You're really going to throw this all away? No, I said. You already did. And with that, I turned and walked past her, toward the stairs. Chris, her voice cracked behind me. But I didn't stop. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't offer comfort. And for the first time since this whole unraveling began, I didn't look back. 3 months later, my life was quieter, but for the first time in a long time, that quiet felt like peace. I moved into a smaller place near the lake. Nothing fancy, just clean floors, wide windows, and shelves filled with books I finally had time to read. No slammed doors. No sharp silences. No walking on eggshells in my own home. People noticed the change. Heather called more often, just to check in or drop off leftovers. My dad sent me tools for the new patio, like we were building something together again. Even my coworkers started commenting. You're different lately, one of the interns said during a meeting. Lighter. I smiled. Feels that way. Then there were the messages. Casual texts from friends of friends. Invitations to dinner, to coffee, to just catch up. And always, behind the small talk, a quiet admiration. You handled it with grace. One of Amanda's former coworkers told me when we ran into each other at a local bookstore. We all saw what she was doing, we just didn't know how to say anything. I didn't gloat, didn't explain. I just nodded and kept sipping my coffee. Word had gotten around, not because I told it, but because people watched. They remembered who stayed calm when things got messy. Who tried, who didn't. Amanda, from what I'd heard, was still in the same house. Still bitter. Still trying to spin her version of the story to anyone who would listen. But fewer people were listening now. Even her closest friends, the ones who used to laugh at her jabs during dinner parties, had started pulling away. Turns out, once the punchline stopped landing, all that's left is the bitterness underneath. Me? I went on walks. I cooked real meals. I danced with strangers at a street festival one night, just because the music was good. I was alone, yes, but I wasn't lonely. And every time I stood in my kitchen, watching the sunrise paint gold over my coffee mug, I felt something I hadn't in years. Pride. Not because I'd escaped, but because I had chosen, finally, to stop shrinking in order to fit someone else's story, and started writing my own. That was the end of my story. I've been thinking about what Heather said that day in the bookstore. You've been bleeding quietly for a long time, Chris. Maybe it's time to stop handing her the knife. She saw the truth before I could, and she said it out loud when no one else dared. Did she do the right thing? Or would you have stayed silent in her shoes? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit something real for you, make sure to like and subscribe. We've got more stories that dig deep, just like this.